If you're a creator that's curious about starting a podcast, or maybe you have an established following somewhere else and are ready to jump into the world of podcasting, maybe you're totally new to the creator world, but the podcast route is the route you want to try first, today's video is going to dive deep into the world of podcasting. As someone who has a podcast and has been doing this for a few years, I'm going to let you know the ins and outs of podcasting basics for creators. This channel is for creators, and I'm really hoping to help you guys on the business side of things. Now, before I jump into the how, I just want to mention really quickly why podcasting excites me so much. It's from a brand deals perspective. Our company by itself, and we don't even focus on getting brand deals, is getting more and more inquiries about being featured on our podcast as a paid speaker. So brands want to pay us to be featured on our podcast. And from an audience and a growth perspective, I am seeing so many more people say they learned about us through our podcast. I host trainings and I ask people, where'd you learn about us? And it always used to be YouTube and social. But throughout the last year, podcast is getting quickly up there as one of the top ways people are learning about our company. So that is why I think if you are a creator, and let's just say you have a significant following somewhere, or not even significant, just, a following, and you want to grow that following, podcasting is a really great way to do so. One thing I also really just want to note, for us specifically, podcasting started off as a repurposing tool. I would do these YouTube videos all the time. And let's be honest, right? These videos are not like highly exciting. They're not like travel vlogs. Like, it's really just me teaching. And a lot of people I found out through my community, they're like, oh, I watch your videos while I'm cooking or driving. I'm like, you're watching? What I really found out is that they're listening, and that they don't need to watch me. They need to listen to me. So this is where we're like, okay, let's rip the audio from our YouTube videos and just put that on the podcast, slap on an intro, outro, and see how it does. And that was our strategy for a really long time. And it did really well. We were literally able to repurpose our YouTube content and take this valuable audio and distribute it on the podcasting platforms. People who wanted to listen to us on their commute, on their drive, they could, or while they're doing their morning walks. It just became an easier way to reach a new audience and the type of ways that our audience wanted to engage with us. You see, I may be making videos, but people in fact want to listen, give them that opportunity too. So for us, I just wanted to briefly share that story before I dive into how you can use this, because if you're already on YouTube and you're already making videos and you think that this audio that you already make could be repurposed on your podcast, that would be a great place to start. Now, maybe you're like, okay, Nina, I don't have a YouTube. Like, that doesn't make sense for me. Thanks for sharing your story, but I'm starting from scratch. Okay, so obviously the first thing you're going to want to ask yourself is, not even outside of the concept of the show, how are you going to present the show? Is it going to be a solo show? Just you? Are you going to have a co-host? Do you plan to interview people? This type of formatting helps you understand your structure. So you're actually building out, what type of show this is going to be from the beginning. Sometimes I'll have a lot of creators who start off as a solo host and then they interview people along the way. I personally have done that. So if you go to my podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or iHeart, it's called Influencer Confidential, and you'll see there's a mix. There's interviews with other guests that I bring on the podcast, and then I have a lot of my solo episodes. I do not have a co-host, but a lot of creators I know end up working with someone else as a co-host, as for some people, it's a little scary to be like, how can I talk for so long? Now, of course, you have to ask yourself, like, what is this show about? One of the biggest pieces of advice I could give anyone in the podcast world is really thinking about your episodes as bingeable Netflix episodes. Can people click play and just keep going through it? That may sound interesting to y'all, but for example, I had this girl the other day that was like, oh, I want to do a podcast on like autoimmune diseases. And she wanted to do one like on Hashimoto's and one on a different autoimmune disease, I believe celiac disease. And through discussing this with her, I was like, but would the celiac disease people want to know about the Hashimoto's one? And she was like, oh, probably not. So we realized there was a disconnect in between the episodes, and she probably wouldn't create a stream of bingeability, right? Versus if she talks about like how to live life with an autoimmune disease, whether you have celiac disease or Hashimoto's, you could benefit from that episode. So it was trying to get us to think about, our themes, our niche, our concept, but also making it done in a way that people want to listen to that next episode because there is a central anchor to the content. Sidewalker Daily, perfect example. Head over to our podcast. You are going to see they are all interconnected. Whether it's growth on YouTube, brand partnerships, affiliate income, like it's all a web of information that most of the creators in our community would benefit from. Also, when you're really thinking about your podcast, just ask yourself, who is this for? Who is listening? the more you know who's listening on the other side of the channel, the better your content will be. Like, I literally can see my inner circle community at the end of the camera when I'm making my videos. I know who they are, I know what they want, and you may not have that community built out yet, but you need to almost get yourself in the mindset that you do, because if not, then you're just talking to everyone and it becomes really overwhelming. Don't think about it in terms of like, oh, I'm talking to this type of person. Think about the interests that that person is interested in. So in my community, I don't think about an age or a race or a gender. I think about what are these people interested in, right? So a creator who's interested in brand deals, she could be 70 plus or 20 years old. They have that commonality and they're both coming to us for that information. Almost think about it as like pollen to the bees. What is the pollen that you're creating that's attracting those bees? That, a central tie-in piece of information. Now, before we talk about recording and equipment, because I think that's a very common question, something that I did want to mention is ask yourself if your podcast is going to be audio only or video and audio. Again, I'm the repurpose queen. I'm like, if you're going to spend time doing it, do video as well and just like plop it on YouTube. But for some people, that is too much. They want to be able to move fast. They don't want to care about what they're looking. They don't want to set up the lights. They just want to go do what's going to make you go fast. So if audio is going to be what makes you go fast, build the muscle around audio and then implement video as you go. Or if you're someone that's like, well, I may as well do video because I'm doing both, then you can do a video podcast as well. They're super popular now, and it's something you can embed into your current YouTube channel or start a new one. All right, let's talk about equipment, because equipment is a very common question when you're getting started. I tell this to anyone that is getting started on something. Don't make it complicated, okay? Do not make it complicated. If you already have a major existing audience, then you may potentially want to invest in specific equipment, but even doing things like in-person, renting studio time and all of that, what's the expression? Like crawl before you run. You could get there. And I have done that. I have done in-person podcasting and I realize it's really expensive. There's a lot of logistics involved. I think setting up some sort of virtual system is really helpful in the beginning, and it allows you to reach out to people from all over. You're not just set to your location. And again, the equipment for doing things virtually is very different. I'm going to go ahead and link some of our favorite tools below. When it comes to mics, if you're using like your computer to record or your desktop, I love the Samsung Q2U. I'm going to link that below. I also have told people like you can literally just film with a really high definition webcam. Again, when you're first getting started on your desktop, have good audio, have your webcam, and just start with that. You can literally just start with that. And I said webcam, obviously, if you're doing video, but if you're doing it at home like I do, I just have my microphone and I have my webcam, and then I have wireless headphones, and I don't even have fancy wireless headphones. I just have like really cheap Amazon ones. Again, they're all in my storefront. So I will link those for you guys if you want to see what we're currently using for when I do my episodes with guests and I do them virtually. That's what I use for them. Now, again, if you're already doing YouTube videos, you're shooting on your DSLR, you're at a studio or whatever, then that equipment is obviously something you probably already have access to. If you need recommendations on just like regular content creation equipment, I have that in my Amazon shop too. The cameras we use, the lights we use when we are shooting at home and not in the studio. Now, if you're going to be filming your podcast, you also want to ask yourself, like, what's the easiest way to get it up and out there for you? So we currently use Riverside. We use Riverside because it just makes it really easily from an editing perspective, from being able to invite guests. There's echo cancellation. There's a ton of AI features. Like I think there's this really exciting feature. It just cuts out all your ums. I love that because I say a lot in some of my podcast episodes. We use Riverside. They also are able to take the long form video and have, magic clips, AI features that translate it to short form video. So if you want to take clips from your podcast and use it on short form, Riverside has that capabilities as well. They actually have this feature that I have not tried yet, but you could basically do your podcast live and invite your audience to come listen to the podcast while you're filming it. So it's pretty cool because it's like kind of having like a live studio audience. So that's an interesting element as well. And that's something that you want to consider if you are doing guests that you are bringing on to the episode. I find Riverside to be really good quality production when you are going to our guests. Anytime I bring guests on the podcast, that's what I'm using. Now, I believe Riverside has a hosting capability and distribution. We currently right now are using Spreaker. I'll link that below for you guys as well. And Spreaker is how we upload it to Spotify and to iHeart and to Apple Podcasts. It is basically our distributor. It distributes and hosts our content for us. There's also really great analytics inside of Spreaker where I can see my monthly downloads, my daily downloads, and it gives me accessibility to stats and monetization as well, because you can obviously be monetizing your podcast when it hits a certain number of downloads. Now, speaking of guests, I do just want to share our process for how we get guests to come on and then what we do once we get them on, because I do think that's an important part of the podcast puzzle. You know, you're going to be pitching people to come on to you and speak. And then once they say, sure, I'd love to be a part of this, then you need to have systems in place to make sure that flow happens from getting them to say yes to recording and executing. So we pitch podcast speakers just like we do brand deals, right? We have a company deck that we include. It's a very visual deck. And this is so when people do get our cold pitch, they're able to see who we are in a glance and a little bit about our podcast, the episodes we make, about us as a company. And it really helps give that speaker confidence and wanting to work with us, because they're not just getting like a random pitch. It's almost like they're getting our media kit without the things that I would include in a traditional media kit, right? So if you're a creator and you're putting together your podcast deck, you can use a lot of the information from your media kit, but you want to tweak it because this is about like podcast guests. So you're not talking to brands. So you're probably including some verges like, we'd love to have you on the podcast. Here are sample episodes. Get to know my audience. Here's my stats around my community. You know, you're going to want a good active pitch deck to use when you're pitching your guests, and obviously some sort of email pitch template that you have generated to get guests interested. Whenever I pitch guests, I actually think of like what I would want to talk about with them and include those ideas in my pitch. So if I'm pitching like a Pinterest expert, I'm going to say, here's 3 ideas that I would love the episode to be geared on. And then I'll say something in my pitch like, of course, these ideas are flexible, but you know, here's what I'm thinking. And it kind of lets that guest know, like, here are my pitch angles, right? Here are some things I want to talk about. And I found that we've had pretty good success once the guest sees what the episodes are about and they're able to see our pitch deck. Now, once the person says, sure, we'd love to be on your podcast, then it goes over to another process. And this is where we have like a really nice onboarding form. You can use like Google Docs or Typeform or whatever you would need to send that like survey to them. And this is where you're asking them, you know, for their headshot, you know, a little bit about their business, their bio, so you can introduce them, like things they don't want to talk about. I have that. And people have said, hey, don't ask me about this, this, or this. You know, what they do want to talk about, anything, you know, links for their business, for their social. So that way it's all in one place. So when we are uploading the episode, we have all their links, we have everything needed. You know, we have their headshot as well so that we can go ahead and make flyers or social media content around it. So having some sort of onboarding form once your guest says yes is also very important to make the process as seamless as possible. We also always let our guests know once the episode is live. I tend to wait like at the end of the day to let them know, or you can let them know at the beginning. I don't think it matters. But again, this makes it really simple for them to share because we include the link. And oftentimes when we have this like email drafted, it's a template, and we'll be like, your episode, and we link the episode is live, like, thank you so much. You know, if you want to share it, this is, you know, the information, make sure to tag us, and having some sort of email already set for when we send it to the guest. Now, regarding the length of time of the episode, I would say solo episodes should be around 20 minutes, because the idea here is you're kind of getting on and building this community with you where they want to listen to you talk and you have value to add. Interestingly enough, I've seen podcasts that do like 5-minute episodes, but they do them every day. So it's kind of like quick little bites, quick little tips, and people love that. I think on podcasts though, you have the freedom to go long. It's kind of like long form on YouTube. You really have that freedom to take your time, to not have your wings clipped, and to be able to share the value you want with your audience. If you're doing a interview series, I usually keep mine under an hour out of respect to my guests, but I've seen episodes that are like an hour and a half and people listen. But just remember that, you know, length of time in the podcast world, you are not cut off. You don't need to stick to a certain number. And people who listen to you for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, mark my words, they care about you way more than someone that watches you for 30 seconds. And that's why podcasting is so powerful for true community building. So if you are a creator that's trying to build community, build trust, build authority, podcasting could be a really good space for you to learn more about. So I hope this video is a helpful first start to get you guys started in your podcasting world. Let me know in the comments below if you are starting your podcast. If you've started, I'd love to listen to it. So you can even drop in links to your podcast. Ours is Influencer Confidential. You'll find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever your favorite podcast is being listened to or streamed. You can check us out there, and I will see you guys in the next video.